Okay, here we go, guys. So let's wait just a couple of seconds to see if someone will start joining. I'm checking in the meantime. Let me see on LinkedIn if we are live. Yes, looks like I'm live. Okay, so guys, I would start. So thank you everybody. So that's the invisible office live chat, I would say. So I would start just with a quick introduction of every one of us. So I will be the moderator, so I will start first. I am Gabriele Proni, CTO of Voxloud and author at Remote.How. I write about how to be a better remote leader. And so let's start with Chris. Stage is yours.
Hello, I'm Chris. I'm the founder at Remote.Based, and we share the best nomad accommodation deals via a free email newsletter. I just believe that everybody should have the chance to work remotely, and this is my way of helping people do that.
Great. Thank you, Chris, for being here. Luca.
Thank you for having me, Gabriele. I am Luca Rossi. I'm the author and founder of Refactoring, which is a newsletter about making great software and working well together. It goes out weekly to more than 30,000 subscribers, and here I am.
Great. Thanks, Luca, for being here. Gregor.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gabriele, for hosting this great discussion that we're going to have. So yeah, my name is Gregor. I'm the CTO at Zorion. We are a young fintech startup offering exclusive investments in pre-IPO companies. And we're currently in a process of finding the product market fit. So this is a very exciting time for us. Me personally, I have over 10 years experience as an engineer and also engineering leader. I also write weekly blog posts about engineering leadership, and also I post frequently here on LinkedIn.
Great. So, first of all, why we decided to jump live all together and have a chat about this topic, the invisible office, or in general, the remote leadership topic. Basically, I started the newsletter about remote management 6 months ago, more or less. And yes, I managed to know great people like you. Most of you, I know you. Thanks for the newsletter activity and our activities in the social and your newsletter too as well. The point here is this. So as of now, the remote work is not anymore the future, is the present. So it's not time anymore to say that remote is here to stay and other things like this. The point here is to understand how to put in practice and everything in order to run for real a remote company and lead in general a remote team. Why? Because it's at least for me, it's that kind of things that just from the paper, I would say, looks like to be simple. You work from home, you don't have to commute, you can be lazy, and everything is better than going to the office. But when it's about leading one or more teams, it's completely different. So the main topic here is to share our experience with our audience and to offer our point of view. So I would start as a first topic about sharing our own experiences about the shift to the remote leadership. So at least for me, it hasn't been so simple. I mean, I started being remote even before the pandemic. So it wasn't a decision due to the pandemic, the mine one in Voxloud. But to be honest, what I learned so far is that I had to learn again how to lead the team because it's been completely different. And to summarize in just few words, what I can say is that when it's about working remotely, even if you have a very small team, you have problems, you have interactions, you have relationships that are very close, very similar to a very big company, meaning a company of thousands of employees. Why? The reason is simple, at least for me, it's because you are not you are not close to your colleagues. So it's pretty much the same things when you work for a big company of thousands of employees and you don't even know your colleague from other teams. So that for me has been the biggest challenges and the biggest things to learn from scratch. So I don't know, Chris, what do you think about it?
I think you make some very good points. I think my experience is a little bit similar, maybe not at the same scale, but certainly the similarity in working remotely pre-pandemic in a company that was remote friendly. Like, I wouldn't say it was remote first, because there was still an office. There was still the majority of people were using the office space, but it was remote friendly. It was possible, and I think that was a suitable. It was very suitable for the time. But now, in a post-pandemic setting, this kind of hybrid setup is that I think that hybrid and remote friendly is very similar. It's like it's possible to be remote, but it's almost like preparing to fail when you do this, because remote friendly is not remote first, and if it's not remote first, then there will be like gaps created and things will start to, small problems will get bigger and bigger without being visible. And so I think the transition has to start with, I think where we are now is we're in a place now where a lot of people are remote friendly and they think that's okay. They think that's enough. But I think what we'll start to see in that transition phase, the next transition phase, probably already happening now, for some companies, is to go from remote friendly to remote first. And I think that's why it's important to do sessions like this one.
Yes, 100%. Remote first is, you can be also remote first by working in the office. That's the biggest difference so far. So what you guys think, Gregor, Luca?
Well, I think you guys made a lot of great points. Personally, I had the fortune or misfortune, based on how you see, to leave this decision twice, because during the first lockdown in March 20, I was working in my startup as a CTO, and it was a small, tight-knit engineering team, about 20 people. We were, as Chris said, remote friendly already, so no problem if somebody wanted to spend like some days from home every once in a while. But we transitioned to, of course, being 100% remote. And to be honest, we didn't feel all that different at the beginning. And but I have to say that those were people that had been working together for a long time, so many years. We all knew each other, and the experience was very good. And I remember thinking, wow, this is easier than I expected. Okay. But then what happened after about 1 year, we sold the company, joined a company, larger company, and about 2 months in Italy, we had another round, of lockdown, and we transitioned again, from being 100% at the office to working remotely. But this time, I didn't know many people. I didn't have the familiarity with many of them, or I wasn't comfortable asking for help from home, saying, "Hey guys, I'm stuck with this and that." And the experience was completely different. It was way harder. So, I mean, long story short, I get it why people have so different experiences when transitioning to remote. It all depends on your context, on your company, on your team. So I think it's a complex topic, and I love that we are having this discussion today. So I don't want to talk too much, but this was my experience.
Yeah, I think all of you guys made really good points, and I can relate to all of you guys' experience. Maybe similar to you, Gabriele. Before moving to a leadership position, I was also I worked remotely before. I grew as an engineer and then to engineering leadership positions. So I had a lot of I had a lot of advantages when I moved to a leadership role already because I was used to working remotely. So maybe I can say a few challenges which were for me that I needed to overcome before basically I worked on site and then moved to fully remote. So I'll say a few challenges that I had to overcome. So I would say the biggest ones for me was I was always used to having people around me, which I could brainstorm ideas. I could ask for feedback. I could just have a coffee with anytime. And obviously, you cannot do this that easily remotely. So I've learned to become a lot more autonomous and learned to the importance of planning ahead of time, just preparing myself, different tasks and planning different things ahead of time. And the second thing I would say, focusing on tasks became a lot harder for me when I moved working fully remotely because it's a lot easier to get distracted if you're working from home because you have so many different things here. You have maybe like an animal. You have a pet, a dog, or a cat, or something. There's TV always there. There are different people at home, and so on. So there's a lot of distractions, right? And if you work like in an office, then you don't have that many distractions, and you can really focus just on work particular, right? So I really needed to observe myself and focus on completing tasks and not get distracted. And also, I'm still learning this at this time to get better at this. And to be honest, still till to this day, I need to get better at this. And I would say that the third thing is I need to change environments every now and then. When I'm working remotely, I can't just work from home every day, 5 days a week. It just overwhelms me a little bit, and I feel like I need to change my environment in order to feel productive again, right? So I try to work from different places like coffee shops or like different locations and so on. That helps me a lot with being productive.
Yeah, we have a champion here of changing environments, I would say. So maybe we will check this topic with Chris. Anyway, I regarding this part about transition to the leadership, one of the things also that I noticed a big difference is this, like you were saying, uh, especially for people that had to transition from the office to a remote setting or an hybrid setting. The point is this: I noticed that I built the relationship with my colleagues in a totally different way because I had a set of colleagues that are working with me since a long time, and I started working with them in the office, and then we transitioned together in a full remote setting. And then I have other manager, sub manager, or even whatever role that joined the company when we were already fully remote. And to be honest, building a relationship when you start from scratch remotely or when you started in the same room is completely different. I cannot say that I cannot say that is better or one option or the other. It's completely different. Of course, having the possibility to build a strong relationship where you can see each other every day, as a huge advantages, of course. But there is the possibility. There are a lot of ways also to build very strong relationship also with someone that you never see, but it's completely different. Did you guys have this kind of experience? Do you agree, or I don't know? You had different experiences. I don't know, someone.
I can go. I can go because I can 100% relate with this, because that was exactly my personal experience. I think that for the better or worse, working remotely changes how you feel that you can interact with people. It's like there is a higher friction to just raising your hand and asking for help or reaching out to somebody. So it's like while when you're at the office, it feels natural, just to get up and ask something to somebody who is close to you. It doesn't feel that natural when you're remote and you have to ask on Slack. In part, it's because maybe you're not that familiar with the guy, but even with the people you're familiar with, it's not exactly the same. And I think there is also something about the expectations that people have, that when they don't have meetings, it's just all focus time. Okay, so they expect not to be interrupted, which is not, not bad, of course. We are all saying that we should have few meetings, plenty of focus time, so people should not expect to get answers on the spot to questions, asynchronous communications. All is right and fine, but that also means that new hires, young engineers, and people who have less rapport built with people are just more likely to get stuck. Are just receiving less help. So this is something that to work on, it doesn't get for free. You have to be intentional, culture with processes, because otherwise, what you, Gabriele, felt, I think it's very real, and it was my experience as well.
Yeah, I would just add to what you said, Luca. Is I was fortunate, to be honest, because I was working on site for my first couple of years as an engineer, and I believe my growth wasn't as fast if I was working remotely as it was than if I was working on site, because I always have like people around me who I can go and ask questions. I can go to them. I can anytime brainstorm ideas. We can just talk about development, whatever. We can talk about this concept. I can easily go and make my proof of concept, confirm it, and okay, let's build it, and so on. And I learned so many different things by doing that. And you just can't do that in a remote environment. Obviously, you can with pair programming, but it's a lot harder because you need to jump on a call, someone needs to share the screen, and so on. It's a lot easier if you just have a person. Okay, please, yeah, I need help. That person just comes to your computer, and it so easily then can help you, right? And maybe the second point is also if you're in the office, right, the most kind of social space in the office is getting a coffee, and kind of a kitchen is the social space in an office, and that's where you're kind of like creating relationships with different people, and that's where you normally like talk about a lot of different things outside of work and so on. And in a remote setting, you don't have that. You don't have like a social place where you can go and just talk about things. And this kind of place does wonders to build a better relationships.
That's so true, and that I think that's a nice way to, or something nice to add to that, is the kind of the way that we look at the way that the side that we look at this from, because we're talking like the examples that we've talked about is like for the mindset, or from the perspective of the young engineer, or the basically the individual contributor who's maybe early in career. Like, sounds like you, especially you, Gregor, have had the fortunate experience of having the on-site time before transitioning, and then now this world that we're in is like, maybe people don't have that. Maybe people are born into these roles where they're remote from day one, and then how does that person navigate that scenario? And there's so much of this which is like personality based, right? So we can talk about culture, and we can talk about building a culture of communication and all this stuff, but so much of leadership is like kind of intuition, where maybe somebody's stuck, but maybe they don't put their hand up. Even in an on-site setting where, like, as a leader, you might be able to just see their body language and be like, this individual looks like they might be stuck. I'll ask how it's going. And that's the other perspective, or the other side of it, which I think is really, really important to focus on. This whole session's about like remote leadership, right? And so I think it's important for us to not put the onus on the individual who's working remotely as much. We should it should be a shared responsibility for the leaders as well. Because if you've got if you go like 10 years of engineering experience, you can probably sense even through the screen like the body language when someone is a bit stuck, and that's like, I don't know, I think that moment, like when that is done correctly, that's the kind of magic that keeps an employee who, if they are new, keeps them engaged so well and so connected to their manager, and then that compounds and snowballs over and over, because the next time, it's easier for them to put their hand up. Yeah.
I want to challenge you in another way, to be honest. The point is this: just imagine if we had to do the opposite. Just imagine a world where everything was remote, and then a reverse pandemic forced us to be everyone in office. So I think that we would have been here saying saying bad things about working in office, at the opposite, because I think at the end it's all about time, because what every one of us is saying is totally true, but to be honest, it's also about the fact that the world it's always been like this, I would say, because we all know that on the other side, the other side of the coin is that even for juniors, just talking about this, I've been junior working in the office, so I totally share your thoughts. I agree with you. But on the other side, what we can say is that today, as a junior, that you are from, I don't know, Italy, you are from Ukraine, you're from Slovenia, whatever, you have the chance to work in a US office. So there are also incredible US companies, or virtual office. So there are incredible opportunities. And I think at the end, it's all about how the company is structured. I think it's completely wrong to try to build something that is the same or better as being in the office. That's because if we start doing like this, the failure is guaranteed. But if from a communication point of view, from a workflow point of view, we structure the work in a way where there are time windows, where we predefine time windows, where we can help, I don't know, juniors, or we can have some brainstorming session with colleagues, meet the senior, and whatever. We can build something that can be for sure different from being in the office, because we cannot rebuild exactly the same kind of interaction we have in the office, but the result at the end can be very, very, very similar, considering also that you can hire people from all over the world, or as a worker you can work with companies that in other situations would have been impossible to work with, because we don't all have the possibility to relocate, I don't know, to the US if you have the dream to work for a US company, just to make a really an example. So I would say this: if in case of probably, in my own opinion, in case of reverse pandemic, we probably would make a live talking about how good was the remote working compared to the in office working. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I agree on the fact that it feels like we are early still, even though, remote work has been here for many years. Even before the pandemic, there have been, of course, pioneering companies that have been doing that for many years. For sure, it still feels like we are learning a lot about how we should work remotely, especially, I would say, about relationships, burnout, and all the well-being aspects of the remote work. I would say even more than the productivity of remote work. So I agree that probably 10 years from now, we will have so many other things figured out. The dust has settled, and we can compare apples to apples and say where remote stands compared to on-site. And for sure, I agree that probably the strongest argument that for if you're a leader or an executive is that it solves hiring big time, both time-wise and money-wise. It has such a strong argument because of hiring that in many cases, and maybe I would say most cases, it makes all other conversations irrelevant, especially in tech where, talent is scarce and there are few engineers. So I think that aside from all these conversations, unless you are, if you're a startup, unless you live in a very talent-dense area and money is not an object, then you will probably have to go remote first or extremely remote friendly. To compete. The only exceptions are really, very, very well-funded startup in the Bay Area or in very strong talent dense hubs that can go maybe for an on-site play. But otherwise, I think the hiring goal is is the dominant one, I would say.
Yeah, I really like what you said, Luca. And, I would just piggyback a little bit to what I said before, which is if I was a junior, I would probably go with an on-site, but right now I would not change it, right? I really love to be remote in a remote environment, and I really love that the company that I work for, Zoran, is a fully remote company, and there's so many benefits to it, right? Just as you said, Luca, we can work from anywhere. I have colleagues from all over the world, which I work with, a lot of talented people, and so on. And that would be just impossible, right? To get to do if you would be just working on site, right? And there are challenges with working remotely, like communication. You need to make sure that you are doing a lot of more over communication than less communication, right? If you're working remotely, there's a lot of more room for mistakes if you're not being very clear when you're communicating, right? And assumptions are very much the worst problem with working remotely. And if you're assuming that okay, this is understood, then you're probably assuming wrong, right? And it's a lot easier to then predict and assume in an on-site environment than actually like in a remote environment. And but you can create good environments also in a remote environment if you have a good structure and good processes in place. I'll give you guys a quick example of how we did brainstorming sessions. This was with a tool called Miro, and we connected all together to that tool, and it was around 5, 6, maybe 7 people, and we basically together worked like on a board, collaborated, we provided all of the ideas, and so on, and you can collaborate really well if you're in a remote environment. And I think it's all about structure and processes. We are not completely there, as you mentioned, Luca. We still need to get better, but I think that this is what also this discussion is all about, to try to get better in all of these things. But I'm a firmly believe that we can create a good environment for a remote culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And in general, talking about being productive and the best environment, I would like to ask Chris, because you recently, I mean, following your newsletter and your, in general, your social, you had an incredible experience recently about the co-living experiences, and I'm very curious to know how was this experience, in particular, how did you manage to be productive, and also if you what kind of you know um, experience you get after this co-living periods.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think just to put more context on that, I think you're referring to a content series that I ran, which was called the Co-Living Experiment.
Yes,
So
exactly.
this was my first experience living in co-living. After 6 years of living in private spaces, apartments, Airbnbs around the world, I decided to attempt co-living space. And there was definitely a very different vibe from from in terms of output and my own productivity. And the way that I like to explain this is like going to the gym and just basically training a muscle. So like the first time I ever started working remotely, it was different. It was just a different. It's like a different muscle. It's like the first time you train any muscle group, or the first time you go for a run. It's you just get better over time. And so I basically realized that I spent 6 years training like one muscle group, which was working remotely in like my own space. And then moving into co-living, it was like, okay, cool. There's a whole new set of distractions now. Um, but after 6 weeks, I now have like some foundational kind of supporting muscle there for the next co-living experiment, which I'm not sure where that will be or when it will happen, but I'm sure that some of the practices. I'm trying to keep the physical fitness analogy going. Like some of the exercises will be useful in the next experiment. But it's funny because all those 6 years weren't wasted. Like they definitely helped me in that environment. It was just different. Um, and this a lot of this feels like it's almost an answer to your previous question, which is about uh, if we flip the scenario around with the pandemic. Like if we did it the other way around, it would just be different. Like we'd probably all be on a call in a meeting room in an office saying that remote work was weird because we didn't get to have physical interaction and see each other's faces and read body language. It's just an uncomfortable phase of learning, but like this is how anything progresses, right? Something has to change. um so yeah, staying productive in the co-living was hard. And I think that anybody who wants to try that, or anyone who's like, maybe you already tried it. If you already tried it, then let me know how that went. But I think it has to start with some planning. So you have to kind of plan or expect. You have to. It's like any project, right? You want to figure out the strengths and the weaknesses and figure out what the risks might be, and then you just try and do all of the things that you can to mitigate the risks. So I knew that I was going to be distracted. I knew that there was going to be certain things that distracted me, and I had to be super aware of that, recognize it, and then put it in a box, and then carry on. And that is not easy the first time you do it. It wasn't easy the first time I did it in an apartment, in an Airbnb in Madrid 6 years ago, and it wasn't easy when I did it in Colombia for 6 weeks the first time. But it gets easier every time you do it. Every time you move to another place, it gets easier, and you have this wonderful ability when you move to kind of take all of the good habits that you learned in a place and all of the good practices and take them with you. But you can also leave all the bad ones behind. So when you get a bad habit, you can drop it after 1 month or after 2 months in a place, and when you go to the next place, you can just keep building on the good stuff. And I think that's the key. That's, I think, what the takeaway would be, and the full answer to the question.
Yeah, because I experienced also as well, let's say a sort of MVP of co-living, maybe if I can call like that, because in January I spent 1 month in Andalusia, the south of Spain, and I shared an apartment with another entrepreneur. We were, so let's say, two people, and I was sharing this apartment. It was the very first time for me, and good and bad, because the good part is that you're not alone, so you can enjoy uh, you know staying with someone else different than you. But to be honest, what I really missed more was the silence in general, because probably, I mean, working remotely, like you say, in your private space, probably now we are very used to have the perfect silence, the perfect environment. uh, Even when you are in the office, you can always be distracted, not by someone else that is asking you something. But I remember very well, every time I was sharing in the last office, my room was very close to the boiler room, let's say, the sales room. And every time I was hearing someone that was very close to make a new sales, I was there saying, yes, let's do it, please, let's do it. So, because of course, my company was about to see a new sale, new MRR coming in my company. And but yes, I was interrupted, because it was stronger than me, because I wanted to know in general. And mm, probably now that I work mm, most of the time remotely, where I have the perfect environment, when I decide to be focused, I can switch off all the notification and stay in a room which is completely silent. It's like I forgot how to work in the noise, because before I was able to do that. I was able to get in focus in a noisy space, and now it's very difficult, because it's exactly like you were saying. It's like training a muscle. If you don't train that, you forget how to move a muscle, and you lose strength and whatever. So uh, it's all about that. And that to me can lead to judge in the wrong way the office on the or the remote work setting, because we can be biased, we can have a bias regarding the way we are used, and we can see something as bad even if it's not so bad at the end. And in fact, to me, this it's a very very big risk when it's about also building the company culture, because of course, the pandemic accelerated everything very in an incredible way. But the risk here is that we can build little companies, I don't know, with 10, 20, 30 people, where nobody is friend. And I'm not saying friend, close friend, but with no normal relationship. And normally in a 30 people company, we are all friends, because we can name each other, we know each other, and that is not happening anymore. And it's truly what I always say. Of course, we don't always have the possibility to do that because of budget or because of geographic problems, let's say. But in general, what I always try to do is to work remotely and hang out physically, because at the end of the day, we do coffee breaks, virtual coffee breaks, whatever, some games together. But at the end of the day, when you share a beer, or you manage to get drunk one evening together, you can build a kind of relationship that probably in one evening that you can't build in 1 month. But it's not about work to me, because when it's about work, you can work remotely, and probably you work better remotely, because the focus you can gain is better. But when it's about building relationships, it's absolutely important at some point sometimes to see each other. Then I have business relationship and working relationship with people that I've never met, and I am also super friend and work well with them. But I'm sure that as soon as I will have the chance to see physically them, I can level up the relationship immediately to another level and have a very well, and I can jump up the productivity by working with him for sure, absolutely. So that's the point. I would like to read a question to close the topic for Chris about the changing environment. More or less you have said, but I don't know if you have some tips, some practical tips. Francesco is asking for you, Chris. You travel a lot. How can you set yourself in a productive mode and exploit the maximum performance when you are outside your office comfort zone, like in an hotel or while traveling? I don't know if you have some practical tips.
Yeah, I have some. I think maybe it sounds very strange, but it's just what works for me. But I do this very strange thing where it's like sometimes you maybe have limited space. So, ideally you have a separate space for a desk, and then the table where you eat is two separate places. But actually, most of the time, it's not that perfect, and you have to work at the kitchen table. And if you're in an Airbnb, for example. So one thing I like to do is I move the seat around. So like now I'm sat here, but when I eat, I won't eat in this seat. I'll eat facing the other way, so that it helps me. It's like I have to have a different, you know, view for a different mode. And so it has to be a desk. And if you want, maybe you can take your dinner somewhere else, but most people will want to eat at the table. So I try to just have it. That's the only way that I can figure out like a different view and a different mode for me, and that helps me like access the productive mode. But that's just when you're at the desk. You have to figure something out before the desk as well to get you to the desk. So you just have to be. I think Luca, you used a word earlier, which is like be intentional. You have to be intentional with it, especially if you're in a leadership position, or you're somebody that people will look to for an example. You have to be super intentional and yeah, kind of be disciplined. And the discipline thing is, again, it's like a muscle. You have to train it over time and be kind to yourself and recognize that you're human and that some days you won't be disciplined, but when that happens, you have to recognize it and then go back to being disciplined without being disheartened. That would be my tip.
Yeah, true. Anyway, there's another comment from Daniele that probably let me think that all of us we don't have kids, because yes, he's saying the perfect silence is a huge utopia, especially if you have kids in your family. That's true. I think that probably there's a way even there to have. I cannot say silence, but probably a good environment. And yes, to be honest, that's another point, because I have all the colleagues that have kids. They always say that when they come to the office, they are on holiday. So probably it's all about this. But I know I was reading here and there that the end of the day, of course, apart the fact that the freedom that you can have when you work remotely to stay with your kids in general, I guess that with a way more discipline, you can even find a way to work from home having kids. But I don't know. I don't have kids, so I cannot say. So, guys, I would like to, let's say, the time is always, we are pretty much done. But before hanging up, what I would like to do is to talk about the free remote bundle that we assembled all together. And you guys that are hearing us, you can download it at live.remote.how. And what is this remote bundle? So basically, we wanted to give you something from each one of us that can help you level up your leadership remotely, your career, or your possibility to change environment. So if you are okay, I would like to have a quick round by introducing our own newsletter and the bonus that we are going to share. So I would like to start. Let's start from Gregor.
Yeah, so yeah, everyone who is going to check this link feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. It's called Engineering Leadership. I post weekly blog posts about engineering in general, engineering leadership topics, how to work also remotely, and so on. So yeah, make sure to check it out. And you're also getting a guide on, there's always questions about how to grow as an engineer, where to grow as an engineer, what are different paths to take as an engineer. I prepared a guide for all of you guys who are interested into growing in different positions like management, architecture, or being an individual contributor. I basically created a personal recommendation for each and every one. Well, what can you expect if you grow to a particular position and which path to take?
Okay, very good, and thank you. And what about you, Chris?
Sure, yeah. So my newsletter is called Remote Base, and it's completely free. So we send two free newsletters every single month, and that shares the best curated long stay accommodation deals from all around the world. But there's basically a premium option, so you can upgrade to that, and instead of getting deals from all around the world and different prices and different sizes, you can set your preferences and say, hey, I'm Chris, I only want to see 2-bedroom apartments in South America. And if you do that, then you get way more than those 2 emails. You get emails whenever we find deals. So you get access to all of the best deals, basically. And as part of this package for the free remote bundle, I'm going to include a 40% discount code for anybody who wants to access that upgraded plan. So yeah, if you do sign up, then say hello and let me know that you found me here in your response to the welcome email, and I'll catch you in the inbox.
Great, thanks, Chris. And what about you, Luca?
So, as I said at the beginning, I write Refactoring, which is a weekly newsletter about writing good software and working well together. So, it's at the intersection of software engineering and good management. I've written a lot about good remote work, build remote relationships. So you will be able to find plenty of material on that. I'm offering 10% discount of the lifetime on the premium version of Refactoring, which includes the whole body of work of Refactoring organized into a curated library, which is more than 150 articles that I have written and more than 200 resources that I recommend, and access to the private community, more than 1,000 engineering leaders. We hold events just like this. We have a book club. We do many things together. If we want to build remote relationships, just like we have been saying. So if you want to take advantage of the discount, really, I would be really happy to have you on board.
Okay, great. So before talking about even me, I just want to say that I'm a true fan of all of you guys, because, I mean, talking about Chris, I am a super fan of Airbnb, and every time I enjoy all the discounts, and also at the end of every email there is always that deal with all question marks that I can't leave without clicking there and knowing where I can possibly go. And regarding Gregor, what I can say, so it's absolutely incredible the experience that you have, and I find very helpful all the topics and tips that you are sharing, and I appreciate it, because of course I saw before the guide that you will be sharing. So thanks for giving this in the bundle. And for you, Luca, even here, you have a huge and incredible community. I managed to know that I'm there since the first day, and I know incredible people. And most of all, I use every day your content, the content that you share, also to train my people, my engineer, not all engineer, to be honest, because the truth is that I always find very helpful topics that I share also with non-engineers. So if who is watching us, I strongly suggest you also to subscribe to Gregor and Luca and Chris. Apart from Chris, is a universal newsletter. But for Luca and Gregor, it's not only about engineering, even if the main topic is engineering. And to close it, regarding me, I would be happy also to offer you guys a guide that is named The 7 Things You Absolutely Have to Know to lead your remote team, and it's based on my last experience of 7 years for remote, where I basically compensated the most important topics that I think they are very crucial to lead a remote team, together with my Remote.How newsletter, where I share every week in 2 minutes one tip and one experience about leading remote teams. So guys, thank you so much for being here with me. One last important thing: this limited free bundles is available only for 24 hours, so you won't be able to download it all together anymore after these 24 hours. So just click hurry up, and thank you all guys for being with me. Bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Gabriele, for
Bye.
having us.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.